Hey, and so for this last lesson, identifying transformations, it's a little more abstract, but you might run into some questions on the regents that will ask you to look at a picture and describe like which transformation it is. So I just wanted to go through a couple of examples with you, that way you had this in your back pocket come regents time. So this first one is how to identify a rotation. Now I'm sure you all know what a rotation is. Like, think of a clock, right? Something that goes around the circle. Well, anything that has a rotation, if you look at it like in graph 1, you see how our triangle starts here, and then it spins around, and now it's like this. So now, if this was A, or if this was A, let's say, now A is moved down here. So a rotation is anything that spins, and this right here is a rotation in this point. So when you see a rotation, think spins. If you remember from the lessons we did with Mr. Siegel specifically, it was like the Ferris wheel. So I think it spins in a circle, all right? Most of the time it'll be rotating in a point. How to identify a reflection? I feel like most of you get this, but just to show you again, a reflection in some line, it's like looking in the mirror, right? It flips over, and now it's right here. So it's like it flips over some line. So here, this one, so we call this A. You see how now A is over here. So for a reflection, all I want you to do is think of flipped. All right, so if something's reflected, that means it gets flipped. All right, which I think reflection is one that most of you get pretty well. A translation, it's another easy one. Think translation is like a slide, right? Translation, all it does is it slides. So you see in this picture, the triangles are still facing the same way, right? Like if I call this point A, oh sorry, I mean to write it in blue, but then A is still there, but just the whole figure has slid. But see, there's no rotation, there's no flipping, it's just slid from one part to the other. So that's those three, and now there's two more that I wanted to point out with you. Dilations, which I think is another one that most of you understand. Remember, dilation, think it's change in size, so it shrinks, or it expands, right? And with a dilation, it's multiplying. So here, like your first image is right here. It's a small rectangle, and then all of a sudden, it gets bigger, right? So there's some sort of multiplication there. And then here in this one, you have the big triangle, and then it becomes a little triangle, so it shrinks. But see, once again, it's facing the same way. There's no rotations, there's no flipping. It's just something shrinking or getting bigger. Now, a glide reflection. This is one that we didn't cover too much, but it does pop up on the regents, all right? A glide reflection, the word itself is a combination. It's a combination of a translation and a reflection. So if you look at this image right here, our first triangle, ABC, you see how the first step is that it flips. So that's the reflection. But you see, it's not done. There's a second move here where it doesn't slide, or I keep saying it doesn't slide, but that's what it does actually. But what I'm saying, it doesn't rotate, it doesn't reflect, it doesn't get bigger or smaller. All it does is it slides, right? Just slides from one point to the other. And that is the translation part. So when you see anything that flips and slides, the special math word for it is a glide reflection. So let's look at an example problem. Here, this one right here, number 532. Under which transformation will triangle A prime, B prime, C prime be the image of triangle ABC? So that means we started with triangle ABC, and somehow we ended up with triangle A prime, B prime, C prime. Let's go through it. Let's try to eliminate some. Now, maybe the answer jumps right out to you, but if it doesn't, let's look at our answers. Let's start with the glide reflection we just talked about, right? Does it flip and slide? It doesn't really look like it's doing that, right? I don't see a sliding there or really a flip. Well, if we didn't see a slide before, it's definitely not a translation. Is it getting bigger or smaller? No. And rotation makes sense, right? If you actually rotate this triangle that way, if you could pick it up and spin it, you would see it faces the other way. So I'm always a big fan of eliminating one of the bad answers. You can do it any way you like though, but just remember, I think glide reflection is the one to remember. It's a flip and a slide. Good luck. I know you're going to do great. There's challenge problems. Don't be afraid to challenge yourself. Have fun.